In this episode of the Texas Private School Podcast, two-thirds of the program will be live and on site for the Battle of Bryant Irvin. Will anyone be able to play for Second Baptist when they take on Houston St. John's? Are Noah Smith and Faith going to overtake Division One Austin St. Michael's? Will the return of Whidden lead the Eagles over Coleman and the Crusaders? And we get to see an all-time matchup offensively of Caleb Cruz versus Jalen McCain and Cornerstone versus Midland. All this and more in the Week 4 preview of the Texas Private School Podcast. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Texas Private School Podcast. As always, I am one-third of your hosting crew, Wes Tolleson, calling in from Dallas, Texas. My good friends Walker Lott and Ryan Schroeder call in from College Station and Oklahoma City, respectively. Um, Guys, I don't typically go back and watch the episodes anymore, but if you haven't seen the Week 3 recap, just from an entertainment standpoint, I think I went back and watched 4 clips in there 7 or 8 times. Ryan, I would like to take this moment and officially apologize to you because I did some reflecting today, and I heard some of my boomer coworkers talk about getting mad at Gen Z kids being on their phones all the time, and I was like, yeah, that gives us a bad. Oh wait, I do that. So I would like to take this moment as a distracted individual and say that was incredibly disrespectful to you. I probably will do it once or twice more in the future. I can't lie, but this is my heartfelt apology. I hope you will accept it.
So Walker's taking this time to embarrass me as well.
What do
For
y'all
those
mean?
who don't know, for those who don't know,
I can't tell if he's being
no, that's a
serious or
joke.
not.
That's definitely a joke. Definitely a
Okay.
joke. For those who don't know, go watch last week's episode. Obviously, I basically, or go watch the no context clip is probably better. Um, Literally like just on their phones while I speak every single time, and I crashed out. I finally had one final crash out about it. So, if they're on their phones today, like Walker just was, I will literally put my hand up like I'm in the fourth grade, and I will be like, "Hey," I'll be like, "Teacher, that guy right there, that guy has his phone," and that's cool. Just be
What I
nice. Be nice to me. Be nice to me. That's all I ask.
and what I will say is that I don't think it's both of us typically, because I don't think Walker is typically on his phone. I think I have
That's
gotten
cap.
pretty
It's
bad
both of y'all.
about.
It's both of y'all.
I'll admit it that it's bad, and I'll accept defeat. Granted, what I'm doing right now is posting the updated rankings, so you'll see that in a second.
That's
So I'm being
TXPS related.
productive, but
TXPS related.
TXP related. But it is the worst is during the previews every year because one of us is speaking a lot for a long time, and then the other one isn't. And so you just see Wes and I just on the phone all the time.
So
But
Yeah,
here's
the
the solution to
previews for
that.
sure. For
We've
sure.
got to take our phones and like tape them to the back wall so you can see that nobody's looking at them. I don't
yeah,
know. The program's in shambles. You would think after 5 years we'd all have this
yeah.
glorious,
Like
harmonious relationship, but now
my
we're just like a
yeah.
bitter old couple that really won't get divorced and just hate each other constantly.
Okay. Wow, that's a great way of describing the 5 year
I,
anniversary of this
I,
podcast.
I think if anyone has watched a second of this podcast over the past 5 years and seen the progression of it, I don't think anyone would believe that for a
True.
second.
Yeah,
But
that's fair.
that being said, there's my apology to Ryan Schroeder. There's Ryan Schroeder's
Sure.
rebuttal.
Sure.
Walker, how
Yeah.
do you feel about the upcoming slate?
You know, I'm gonna be honest. It's not my favorite slate of the whole season, but we kind of said that last week, and we were like, we don't really know how this slate's gonna go, and it was amazing. It was awesome. It was chaotic. It was exactly what you want. Those are the weeks that kind of are gonna be the ones you remember right down the line. So I think this is gonna be somewhat of the same one, right? Where you don't have the Parish Liberty, the Parish Prestonwood matchups that you're like, oh, we got a circle in the calendar. But you have some games on here that I think are going to be really intriguing, kind of seeing, okay, how does everyone kind of look while going into the season? And honestly, I mean, being absolutely real, the game that y'all are going to be at might be a SPC 3A preview in a couple of weeks of the state championship. Like, this is how good these two teams look right now. And massive, massive state championship implications of who might make state is because of this game, right? Where we have Oak Ridge very highly ranked and we have all this stuff about them. That number two slot's very intriguing. Houston Christian started 0-3, and these two teams have really risen to the case. So this game might mean who's going to state, and that's a week 4 matchup. Like, what more do you want?
Exactly. And even to the point that these kind of sleepy weeks, whether it's college football or high school football or TXPS specifically, it seems like these always end up being the best weeks because so much it's the most potential for upsets. You're like, yeah, of course this team's going to win. Yeah, of course this team's going to win. And then all of a sudden we look up and there's a 40-38 upset and we're getting clowned on social media. It's a beautiful thing. I'm sure it will happen this week. I'm very excited for it. And we're going to get in and preview the 5 games that we have for this week. Before that, something that should have been mentioned on the recap episode, because we mentioned some accolades in TXPS, especially kicking, but Hudson Resor of Fort Worth All Saints also had a pretty decent performance with 171 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns in a single quarter of play.
Unbelievable.
From what the sources gathered going through the record books, there was one receiver that had 5 touchdowns in a quarter, but no other mention of 4 in a quarter. So a very good chance that's the second most touchdowns in a quarter in recorded Texas high school football history. Gentlemen, the 2 occasions that I scored 2 touchdowns in a game, I thought I was the greatest player that ever lived. I was
Yep.
jacked up. I was watching all my huddle highlights. I'm like, yeah, I'm
Yep.
that dude. That's 4 touchdowns in a quarter. Walker, I was going to say, do we ever remember a receiver scoring 4 in a quarter that we've covered? But obviously not, since it's never happened before in Texas
Yeah,
high school
no,
football.
it's unbelievable, man. You know, we putting 6 points on the board is it's an important thing, of course, but doing it 4 times in one quarter is, I mean, you've never heard of it, right? Like, I remember some Texas high school football legendary games recently where Jackson Smith and Jigba, right, against Allen a couple years ago was unbelievable in that game. Marvin Mims has had a couple games. I don't even think they had 4 touchdowns in a quarter. Like, unbelievable stat line. You would have to go into the stat books, and we need our guys at LCSN to help us out. But I really do think that's one for the record books for sure.
No, absolutely. Anytime you're mentioned in the same sentence as receivers like that, you know you're
Yeah.
doing something really
As
right.
NFL receivers.
Yeah.
Exactly. Ryan Schroeder, 4 touchdowns in a quarter, 171 receiving yards. That, it's insane. Your thoughts?
There's only a couple guys I feel like that would even remotely be close to that, and I haven't even seen them get 3, let alone 4. So I mean, the first names that kind of, I mean, Pyle is the one that I think about right now, maybe that could do that. But we've had guys over the past 5 years of this show that I feel like are that even last year, Liberty, Janusek. If you told me, Janusek could be a guy that could do that, but 4 is just an insane number. 4 is a number that you're like, that ball must be going to him every single drive. Like, as soon as you get the ball back, it's like, oh, just throw it up to Reeser. It's like,
It,
that's
dude,
what it
dude,
feels like.
the funniest thing is I went back and I watched the tape, and he had 5 total touchdowns in the game on 4 different DBs. Like, it's not like
That's
he was just cooking
hilarious.
like some trash dude the whole game. It was
That's
4.
hilarious.
They rotated everyone over, and it's like, I'm better than you. I'm better than you. I'm better than you,
Who
and I'm
could
also
guard
better than
me?
you twice. You can't guard me. Always open, to quote the great David Robinson. But that being said, it's incredibly impressive. It also continually makes me feel bad that I never came close to that. But if I felt bad every time I saw a great stat line with as many good athletes as we cover, I would have quit the program a long time ago. That being said, shout out Hudson Resort for a fantastic performance in TXPS. With that being said, let us move into the meat and potatoes of this episode, starting with a game that Ryan Schroeder and I will be live and on site for. That is Fort Worth Trinity Valley versus Fort Worth Country Day, where the Falcons of Country Day are 13.5-point favorites. The Battle of Bryant Irvin is back upon us. TVS bested the Falcons last year 42-38 behind 43 carries for 260 yards from Ben Nagishu. 43 carries. My God. But Nagishu is gone, and the load offensively will fall to Caden Tolbert, Beckham St. Peter's, and company. St. Peter's is a dog, by the way. I saw a bunch of kids in our stories that we post every Thursday being like, cover St. Peter's, cover St. Peter's, cover St. Peter's. And I'm like, I mean, he's a young kid. I think he's pretty good. And I went and I watched his tape prepping for the episode. I'm like, oh, he's really good. They actually, the noise from the crowd was actually correct this time. He's only a sophomore, and you can tell when you turn on his tape, he's going to be a dude. He's unquestionably one to watch in the class of 28. Samuel Williams also brings good length to the outside at 6'3". TVS themselves have had an interesting start to this season. They're 0-3, but no glaringly bad losses. They lost by 3 to Southwest in week 1, a 21-0 shutout against a team we now know is better than expected in ESD, and then an absolute pasture fire 61-52 loss against Fort Worth Christian last week, who we think is one of the better teams in TAPS Division 2. Good luck to any of you trying to read the tea leaves of those results. On the contrary, Country Day has begun the season 2-0 with wins over St. Mark's 44-14 and Colleyville Covenant 46-26. Freshman quarterback Hayes Casey has thrown for just under 600 yards and 6 touchdowns in 2 contests, with seniors Fox Burton and Kanan Factor seeing the majority of those receptions. Burton also went nuts with 112 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground in the win over St. Mark's. I'll be transparent. I have no idea how to read this game. TVS has had the better culture of late, but losing guys like Nagishu and Drennan hurt a lot. The shutout at the hands of ESD isn't great, but putting up 52 on Fort Worth Christian is bananas. As for Country Day, they've had weaker competition to start, but I still think St. Mark's is a solid team, and that win is impressive. Give me Factor, give me Fox, give me the Frosh. Falcons in 4. Walker Lott. I say that very confidently. In reality, I don't know how confident I am. This game, I think the margin is razor thin. I think it's probably closer than the 13.5-point spread, courtesy of Massey Ratings, indicates. Both teams have had different starts to the season, but also different levels of competition, in my opinion. What is your read on this contest from the man from Fort Worth?
Yeah, this is I always love this game. Being from SES, you always heard about this matchup and it being a really cool rivalry. The trophy is actually pretty cool. If I remember correctly, it's like an army helmet on top of a trophy, and it's actually a pretty cool thing. And it's up there some of the great rivalries in Fort Worth with like Pascal and Arlington Heights. Like this is one of the great ones, and it's a matchup that you have to win. It's kind of like that game every year you have to win it. Um, Dang, I don't know really where I'm going to pick. I think this is a fun one, guys. I think you gonna have yourselves a good one to go watch. Um, from people I've heard from both sides, from just Fort Worth, and like trying to hear like, all right, what do you think? What are you trying to get? I've heard both things of greatness on both sides, right? Um, for my pick, I'll match you. I'll go Fort Worth Country Day. I think the passing attack for Country Day is what's going to win them this game. Um, I've heard the trenches for Fort Worth Trinity Valley is kind of their strength, and Hub Nichols and company are really good players, and that's kind of why I like them. But I like the receivers, man. Sometimes skills positions win games, right? I think Country Day is going to win it through the air. A freshman quarterback kind of scares me in a matchup like this where it's going to be rowdy, but he's done great so far. His opening win against St. Mark's looked good, right? I think he continues it here. Um, it's going to be a fun one. I don't think Caden Tolbert and company is going to sly away from the fact that they're gonna do everything they can to win this game. These are state championship implications in this game in week 4, and I hope both teams understand that because it makes this even better. Not just a rivalry; it makes it everything's on the line in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. No bigger playoff implications as early as week 4. I don't know what else you want out of this slate. Ryan Schroeder, we yet again are 2 on the same side of a game. You know my plea to you here, but you have autonomy. Go ahead, give the people the pick.
The thing is I've known what I was going to pick for this game, maybe even after Friday night. I can tell you right now that it's crazy to say that because obviously TVS has 3 losses against teams that are honestly very good teams. Like SCS is a high level team that we have ranked. ESD I'm pretty high on with how they've started the season. We'll see how they do against All Saints. Fort Worth Christian we've highly ranked in D2. Like every team they've played is a high caliber team, and they've kept it somewhat close with these teams. With all that being said, though, we're going to Country Day. Me and Wes are both going to be there. I kind of, after the recap episode, I talked about Fourth Country Day. Hayes Casey, every single game he plays is like he's a freshman in high school, so he's gonna get better every single game he plays because he'll get more experience every single time he steps on the field. In that opinion alone, I think Hayes Casey, third game of his high school career, he's already putting up 250, 300 yards per game. I don't when you got guys like the Factor brothers and Fox Burton out there, and you got Fulton Weaver with 2 touchdowns this past week, like. I don't know, man. I think they're a threat. I think Fourth Country Day's got a great offensive attack. I see the TFLs last week as well against Covenant Christian. I'm going Fourth Country Day. I really could see TVS, keeping it close once again, but you have a team that's won 2 games, you have a team that's lost 3 games, and you have a quarterback that I'm pretty confident in right now. Give me Fourth Country Day.
Well, that frightens me deeply in a game that's this close and we're all on the same side. But
Yeah.
I do think that both squads will be ready for this game. It's a rivalry game. Crazy things happen. I'm very, very excited. And there's also sneakily a lot of talent on both sides. It's going to be a fantastic game to go and cover. And I always enjoy sharing the field with Ryan Schroeder as we get to pump out content on the night. That being said, we will now go south to Houston to see Second Baptist versus Houston St. John's, where St. John's are 13.5-point favorites. The curious case of Houston Second Baptist. So we now know that Cannon Toon went out with an injury in the first half of the Fort Worth Christian game, which contextualizes that in the ESD loss. Kind of. Fort Worth Christian and ESD are both solid squads this year, and quite frankly, Second Baptist bled more talent than they were able to replace in the offseason. Guys like Bryce Butler, RJ Lee, and Ethan Dishman do not grow on trees. Obviously, they still have talent such as Alan Thomas, Langston Davis, and Toon, but quite frankly, this is a must-win, in my opinion. You know what? I actually don't believe that. Last year, Fort Bend Christian started the season 1-4, and they went on and won district. So nothing at this spot in the season really makes sense. But you best believe that St. John's is going to come out with their hair on fire. Hanley Sayers, James Young, and Carson Murray are 3 juniors that will bring a dynamic rushing attack to the Eagles' doorstep, while linebacker Jack Stranger and Luke Odom lurk on defense. Ultimately, both of these teams scare me, but with the uncertainty surrounding Second Baptist at the time being, I'm not going to get burned again. Give me the ghost of Cole Allen. Give me Houston St. John's. I like any of these situations where we have limited information to pick off of, and I'll hit on this again later in the script. I'm always going to be nervous to pick the team I don't know a lot about because that has burned me in the past, and it burned me earlier in the year. Walker Lott, this game is incredibly interesting to me. I really don't know which way that I'm going to go, but I'm curious to hear your opinion on this one.
Yeah, I think if I'm being logically, I think Second Baptist is a stock that's going down, and I just can't invest in it right now.
Hmm.
And I'm gonna
But
go
maybe it's a great opportunity to buy.
right. I think
Oh,
it
dude.
might
No,
be in the
that's
future.
that's the investor guy talking right there.
Yeah,
He's trying to get you on a
I
deal
know.
right now.
Dude, I'm a Benjamin Graham disciple. What can I say?
Oh my goodness.
I think the stock is and should be something you buy come district play. This is not the week to do it, I don't think. So give me St. John's in this one. Their defense has looked impressive in most games, and I'm excited to see what their offense can do against a always great Second Baptist defense. So this is an interesting one. I'm not 100% solid on that, but I think that is the more logical pick in this one, and I have to protect my lead. So give me St. John's.
That's fair. Ryan Schroeder, exact same setup as the prior game and every game last week. 2 on one
Hmm.
side, 2 solid teams. What direction are we swinging?
Man, if I just said the same thing I just said for TVS, I really can't say that I'm going to go any different for SBS in the same fact of like they're both 0-3 teams, right? They're both teams that um, have played well in certain games, and obviously Cannon Toon went out in one of them, right? So it's hard to even justify what their schedule looks like, what the game looks like against ESD. Does he cover 16 points? In my opinion, nodding my head, I think he does cover 16 points himself. Um, I just think that's going to be the factor. I think Cannon Toon at the quarterback helm is just a different SBS team. And I think we would all tell you that. With that being said, I think St. John's is also a team that, is looking to get a pretty good statement win going into district. They have Lutheran South next week, which I think is another opportunity. But this week against SBS, a hurt SBS, a SBS that isn't what they may look like in week 10, week 11. I think you take it as you can. I think St. John's is going to come out and win this game. Give me St. John's as well.
Yeah, I think that's the best decision given the information available to us, but it'll be interesting. These games, I feel like I've said the word scared at least four times already on this episode, but they make me nervous just because both teams are good and to have to pick one over the other, opens you up to embarrassment, especially when we're all
Mm.
three on one side of a game. But that's what we're here to talk into microphones and give our opinions on things. With that said, we will now move over to Austin, where Grapevine Faith will take on Austin St. Michael's, where St. Migos are 4.5 point favorites. No idea if they're still called St. Migos, but I will say that for
Just
the
keep on
rest
saying
of
it.
time.
Just keep
You
saying it.
have to. Faith will take I-35 South on Friday afternoon to do battle with the 2-1 Warriors of Austin St. Michael's. St. Michael's has had a solid start to the year, albeit with a narrower than expected game against Covenant and that heartbreaker against Episcopal in their last contest. Junior quarterback Nico Anderson has established himself as one of the better gunslingers in the D1 South, and with weapons like Ian Quinn and Andres Patino, you can see why St. Mike's is averaging 43 points per game on the young season. The defense will have to step up, but behind guys like Joe Logan, Danny Smith, Jake Garcia, and Pierce Kovacs, I think it will be formidable. But Faith has some playmakers of their own. Quarterback Austin Cosby has settled into his own in his senior campaign, tossing 355 yards and 5 touchdowns on 80% passing in his sole contest this season, as the receiving core behind seniors Noah Smith, Jacob Montez, and junior Jace Walker looks as good as they have in recent memory. I don't know how much you can extract from a game against Cistercian, but I can confidently say that Faith won't be in the doldrums they suffered in prior seasons. That said, and this goes back to the last preview, I still don't have enough of a sample size on the Lions. And while I think they will be competitive, I really like St. Mike's this year. I'm going to roll with Nico and the boys. Walker, I think we expected Episcopal to go out and dominate St. Mike's more than they did last week. And in reality, St. Mike's went up 21 to nothing, was in the driver's seat early in the game, and just kind of let it slip through their fingers. I think St. Mike's is good. I really like the talent they have. Faith has young guys that are talented. I just don't know if it's going to outmatch a big established Division One squad. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. I really like both squads. I think it's going to be a very interesting thing. St. Mike's, after the loss to Bel Air, makes me feel so much more highly about them. And, I think Grapevine Faith always has dudes. Like Austin Cosby's the next in line of great quarterbacks there, Grapevine Faith. They have weapons all around. But I know the schedule so far isn't as interesting and dominant as I would like them to be. And I think after this kind of I know loss, but after the game against Bel Air, I really like the St. Mike's team. I'm gonna go pick St. Mike's here. I just don't think I can bet against them. I like the St. Mike's. I like Episcopal a lot better right now than I do Grapevine Faith. So give me the Warriors of Austin.
Ryan, this is looking strikingly similar to last episode where all three of us were on the same side of every
Oh,
single game.
goodness.
We've set that up for the first three games, unless you have a differing opinion here. I think both teams are good. I've given my opinion on both sides. You have not yet. Where do you see this contest going?
Yeah, I think honestly Cosby is just a dog. And I think that now that, Noah Smith is a senior, Jace Walker is obviously he's got weapons, man. Walker said it perfectly. Like Grapevine Faith has another era of high level quarterback, just like they did in the Hogan days and all that before. Obviously, yeah, I'm expecting Faith to have an up season compared to previous years over the last 2 or 3 years. With all that being said, though, this is a team that just lost on a game-winning field goal last week, and a team that obviously is a high-caliber D1 South team, a team that's going to make a run for the D1 South title this year. With all that being said, you got to give me St. Michael's in this game. Faith's got to go all the way, come all the way down from Dallas, and honestly, I think St. Michael's is ready for blood this week. Give me St. Michael's.
For those that don't know, I'm a bit of a stats nerd, and one of my key projects that I want to do at some point is quantify bus fatigue. See how many points each mile traveled
Mm.
cancel or counts against a team if it's statistically significant. I've talked to Jack Klosek about this. We will figure out how to do this at some point. I don't think I'm smart enough to do it on my own. I'll hire some. I'm sure I can go back to A&M
Where
to
where
some of
does
their.
where does Midland stack up in this? Because Midland has to have a different. They have to have a different parentheses around them because they do it so often.
I was gonna say the effect for them has to be noticeably muted compared to everyone else. In a
For
grand
sure.
sample, they're such a small piece that I don't think it would skew the overall results. But if we just took them as a case study, I think you would see that if for an overall team, if per 200 miles traveled is subtracted 3 points from your total, Midlands might be like point 0.3 or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I need, again, we need to hire some people smarter than us to do this,
Yeah.
but I really want to get that done. Segue over. That game's going to be really fun. Now we stay in we move back over to the Houston area where we will see Fort Bend Christian go to Concordia Lutheran, where the Crusaders are 13.5 point favorites in this matchup. I don't know if anyone has ever questioned if an Eagle or a Crusader would win in a bar fight, but we're going to get that answer on Friday night. Concordia comes into the contest 2-1 following a 48 to nothing shellacking of Kelly Catholic. Both wins on the season have been blowouts of poor programs, the other being St. John's the 23rd and a 19-point loss to Cooper, which in my opinion is somewhat respectable. Concordia sneakily has solid talent, namely the big three of Malik Liberty, Jackson Coleman, and Rome Stanford, who I cannot believe is now a senior and makes me feel like Super Unk. Ryan Geek also looks good at the quarterback spot, and Junior Henry Moliner looks like a dude at linebacker. But Fort Bend will be playing angry following a 40 to nothing whipping at the hands of Pflugerville. It's going to be the question if senior quarterback Cole Whidden is ready to go at quarterback because somebody has to throw T2 the ball. It's vital that the Eagles get him involved in this one, as the prior two muted offensive efforts have come in contests where he did not record a reception. I don't think Concordia's offense is to the level of Cornerstone's or Pflugerville, but I've made it a point when there is significant uncertainty surrounding a team, I tend to steer clear. It's like I've said this 3 times on the episode already. Fort Bend has talent, but I don't know where they stand at this moment in time. Where I do know that Coleman, Liberty, and Stanford are ready and waiting. Call me Pope Urban because we're going on a crusade. I'm taking Concordia Lutheran in this game to best Fort Bend Christian. Again, Fort Bend obviously has talent. I don't know the extent to their health this year, whereas I do know that the really, really good playmakers are ready to go for Concordia. Again, Walker, in D1, I feel like we overlook Concordia a lot just because there's so many talented teams, even in the South, that they just kind of get washed down a little bit. It's a team that year in and year out has great talent. Fort Bend typically as well, but in this spot, I have to go with the Crusaders. Which way are you going?
Yeah, I'm following you again, man. Give me Tomball Concordia. I just think they have some dudes. I'm gonna go with the Division 1 team here, and Concordia is the better team in this one. Fort Bend has some dudes. I'm excited to see what Jonah Kalu can come to the table, and there's a lot of guys. Gonzalez, the 28. I think they have some guys, and I think they're just a young team. But I'm excited to see what they can do against a team like Concordia away up in Tomball. Can they kind of compete in this one? I'm intrigued to see. Concordia, I'm really excited to see how they use Rome Stanford in this one, right? Where last year, uh, St. Pius kind of used him just as a corner and not really as a receiver, but I think he's a great receiver as well, and I think he'll be used a little bit more that way this year. And Jackson Coleman's one of the best athletes in the state. A junior Jackson Coleman, man, whew, I'm excited to see that. So, I'm there's a lot of positives to watch in this one. A lot of talent. I'm excited to see, kind of ball out in this one. So yeah, go Crusaders.
Ryan, yet again, same story, two on the same side.
Oh, gosh.
Maybe you'll give us one where we're going to go differently.
Not this one. Dude, it's so sad. I think it really just comes down to like Fort Bend obviously is in a position where coming off two really bad losses, right? Like I would love to, you know, put a lot of emphasis into the fact that it's going to be a comeback win against Concordia. But that's more likely in the case of like the Episcopal and St. Michael scenarios where you lose by a last second field goal. I think Concordia Lutheran is a team that went 7-4 last year, a team that wipes through their non-district schedule every year. Like Concordia, in some aspect or another, has been underrated over the past few years. Like I feel like they just they play some good teams at the top of the South in D1, and they end up losing by a few points every single year in these games. Last year, only lost to Central Catholic by 2, went 10 points with Antonian. Like and he beat St. Michael's by a lot. I mean, I honestly I know last year isn't this year, but I'm just telling you right now that Concordia is severely underrated year to year. Put up 62 on St. John, like you said, the 34 points on Cooper is good, 48 points. At least we know that they can score, right? I'm not positive with the Fort Bend games I've looked at so far that they're going to get in the end zone. With all that being said, give me Concordia Lutheran here.
So through 4 matchups so far, we are all three on the same side, which will be interesting Friday night. If any of these games blow up, will be fun to watch. We have one final game to see if we all hold the same opinion. This one will take place in San Antonio, where Midland Christian will try and shrug off some more bus fatigue by traveling to Cornerstone Christian, where Cornerstone are 7.5 point favorites. Midland will take a ride to the Riverwalk this Friday to do battle with Cornerstone Christian. Cornerstone is actually the first non-TAPS SBC school that we've previewed on the channel. Congratulations. But the Warriors have impressed on this young season. Shellackings of D3 champion Dallas Christian and Division II District 4 district champion Fort Bend, along with a narrow 5 point loss to a tremendous parish squad, should point to a good chance to catch a dub come Friday. Sophomore running back Jalen McCain is the workhorse of this offense, accounting for 54 points and 381 yards rushing on the year thus far. Brady Young, Coy Hayes, and company are going to have to bring their A game in order to limit his production. I mean, McCain went for 191 and 3 touchdowns on a much improved Parish defense. Sophomore quarterback Mateo Rodriguez is very talented as well, and junior wide receiver Luke Smith makes his life easy, averaging almost 100 yards per contest. The defense also has been solid behind guys like Angel Hernandez and Henry Guzman at linebacker and Big Azan Bakote on the defensive line. But Midland is one of the top teams in Division II. Jackson Franco has more than passed the eye test at quarterback, and people are going to figure out very soon how dangerous Callaway Rodriguez is at wideout. Plus, you had Caleb Cruz playing literally anywhere on the field he wants, Rowdy Pierce blocking for him, Coy Hayes and BY causing havoc at linebacker. How could I not pick the team that I've been so impressed by? Very easily, actually, because Cornerstone had such a close game with Parrish. I say very easily, and the pick for me is Cornerstone in this spot. Maybe it's partially because Bradley Hanna was so impressed by them when they beat Fort Bend. That Parish game holds a lot of weight to me right now. Only losing by 5 to a really good Parish squad that other teams have said really have an opportunity to be the best team in TAPS Division 1. And also, dude, I really can't overstate how good Jalen McCain's going to be. It's going to take a village for Midland to stop him. But on the contrary, if there's any team that's big, that's physical up front, it's Midland. I like their wide receivers as well. I went through all of that in the preview. Walker, this was probably the hardest game for me to pick. And in all reality, the smarter pick for me is to take Midland because you don't cover Cornerstone a lot. Maybe I curry favor with a team that we cover more heavily. Again, I've got a pick record to win. I think this game also is razor thin. The pick makes me nervous. I do think it's Cornerstone in the spot, and I want to see where you go.
You know, I don't think it's razor thin for me at all. I think this is a blowout for Cornerstone, in my opinion. I'm gonna make it go bold. We're all gonna go the same way, but at least someone has to go bold. I think it's an absolute blowout in this one. I think it's a slacking.
No, the Midland people are crazy, dude. They're gonna go nuts if they
Well,
win.
then here's some motivation for you. I think it's a
Don't
21.
give them
Oh
that.
gosh.
21
Oh
point
gosh.
21 point win for Cornerstone. I think it's an unbelievable game for them. You can't tell me 5 points within Parish and they're not the way better team. So I have to be the villain in this episode. Give me Cornerstone. Give me the big. Yeah, bus fatigue all the way down to San Antonio. That's a long drive.
It's Midland
That
Christian. We
that
just talked about it. They don't count. They
I
can
don't
go
They're
care.
immune.
everywhere.
They're
They go
immune.
they
That's a
go everywhere.
long
It's
drive,
a
man.
long
That's the
drive.
longest it's been
That's
in a
a
while,
they gotta
probably.
fly. They have to fly. Fly would make more sense. Flying would actually make more. I'm looking this up.
Walker,
Flying would make.
you're stealing Ryan's whole flow by being the
Yep,
outlandish, like
I
just say
know.
they're gonna win. No, they're gonna blow them out and opening us up
They're
to
gonna
getting
fly.
again. Certain teams I think we could do that against. Teams I don't like doing that against are Dallas Christian and Midland because they're crazy people. They're
Well,
gonna come after
they
us.
already beat one of the crazies. They're gonna beat the other one, the other crazy one here. So, uh, I don't know what you want from me. I put the phone down finally for Ryan Schroeder, and I'm doing his ball. I'm doing what he usually does and being that kind of crazy one. Give me Cornerstone big in this one.
It's a
Ryan,
5 hour drive in a bus. They're definitely flying. There's no way you would ever
they
drive
gotta
this.
drive 5 hours to get pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, you're
Sure,
right. Oh my gosh, dude.
5 hours in a bus.
Why would you go to Midland Christian?
Bus fatigue, man.
Just
That's at least a touchdown.
Not for
that
Midland. Not for
oh,
Midland.
dude.
So
Oh, that's crazy. Okay. All right. For those who actually haven't heard the spaces, I've actually been pretty high on Cornerstone, and obviously the parish game in and of itself makes a lot of sense. Um, I also just genuinely think that like Cornerstone is a very talented team. I saw a clip week 1 when they played DC where Drake Carroll absolutely destroyed somebody. Like I'm telling you, Cornerstone is probably one of the best freelance teams we've seen in a minute. And Cornerstone has been that freelance team over the last couple years that has always stepped in. Their schedule each year, they keep scheduling the primetime teams in tabs. They scheduled DC and Parish last year. They scheduled Midland last year. They scheduled LBJ Austin last year. Like I'm telling you, Cornerstone is not afraid of anyone. And in that same vein, I just feel like Midland they're going to beat Midland as well. Mateo Rodriguez is obviously a great at quarterback, but like Wes said, Jalen McCain is just I love it. A sophomore duo at quarterback, running back. They got Josiah McNeil, who's another guy that's a sophomore. That's a young Cornerstone team, talented Cornerstone team. Shout out my guy Danny as well that does their creative stuff. All things being said, give me Cornerstone here. I like Midland though. I think Midland. I don't think it's a blowout. I'll be on the Wes Tolleson here. I'll just say Cornerstone, and we'll say I'll be somewhere in the middle of y'all too. Somewhere between 21 points, and I think West probably has it more like 7. So give me 14, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I appreciate you doing that, but I think Walker's already done all the damage that we can attempt to control. I get Walker. I will say it here. I will give you your flowers if they blow them out. Midland always likes to make these games sloppy and just hit you in the mouth. We'll see if they can do that in San Antonio at Cornerstone's house. My guess is they can because, like we said, they have to travel everywhere they go. I don't know. I think, like you said, Cornerstone's the more talented team, but most teams that Midland plays typically are the more talented teams, and they make things happen regardless. That being said, that is the final game that we have to preview for this week. As we said, I think we said, maybe a sleepy slate. All 5 of us are on the same side of every game like last week, but last week there was a significant amount of chaos. And I'm sure once we get on the space, my favorite part of Friday nights is getting updates from the interns and updates from what's going around on TXPS and getting incredibly nervous for my pick record and for us getting lambasted on social media. That being said, a very, very fun week. We get to do it all again tomorrow when the games kick back off. We will recap all of these games in your feed on Monday evening when we do the recap. But until we meet again, I have been 1/3 of your hosting crew, Wes Tolleson. Walker Lott and Ryan Schroeder have fantastically been themselves. We will see you in the next episode. See you later.